before Wednesday's game, the Twins were 40-45. They're third in the AL Central. You look up and down their roster, you look at their offense, you look at their pitching, pretty much every metric says, yeah, they're kind of middle of the pack. They do some things well, but all in all, they are a beatable opponent.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Rays, your daily podcast covering everything Tampa Bay Rays, from game analysis to player interviews. We've got you covered with all the latest news and insights. My name is Captain Weiss.
I'm Ulises Zambrano.
Bringing you expert analysis and passionate discussions about our beloved Rays.
We're here to break down every play, every trade, and every milestone. In fact, this is our 7th season covering the Rays daily.
So grab your favorite Rays gear and settle in on today's episode as we discuss the Rays taking on the Minnesota Twins. Update on the MLB All-Star Game. The American League starters have been revealed. There is not a single Ray in that starting lineup. What gives? We'll discuss the impact of that. Plus, we'll close things out with baseball trivia Name That War.
Yes, we will. But first, we got to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase.
All right. So, Ulises, this is another long road stretch. I believe the Rays won't play at home again until after the All-Star break. So, a lot of travel to come. Hopefully they're ready for it. I would think that the Twins are a good tune-up to be able to nab some W's, but I'm not going to go on record and say that the Rays should win the series or sweep the series. I can think that and mention that internally, but I will not put that out on the interwebs in the ether based on what happened in the Athletics series. But before Wednesday's game, the Athletics or the Twins were 40-45. They're third in the AL Central. You look up and down their roster, you look at their offense, you look at their pitching, pretty much every metric says, yeah, they're kind of middle of the pack. They do some things well, but all in all, they are a beatable opponent.
Yes, they are. Now, before this whole stretch of road games started, which was the Kansas City Royals series, there were 19 games left. I'm keeping track of it. Right now, the Rays have played 9 of those games, and they're 5-4. My whole thing was, can you make it 11-8? So right now, with what's left, they would need to go 6-4. Can you go 6-4 with Minnesota, Detroit, and Boston? All away games. Minnesota, Detroit, and Boston. Boston's for 4. So
I'll just say it's doable. I'm not going to say, yes, 100% it'll be done, but it is within the realm of possibility. That is as far as I will go with that. And with the Twins, we faced them already, correct? I'm losing sight of time. Well, they are missing multiple starters, and evidently the team is shuffling in spot starters and relying more on some of the bullpen arms, which can be good and bad for the Rays. One, the players probably not as good as the normal group in the normal crew, but then again, it's also fresh looks. And we've seen it time and again where a guy comes out of nowhere and dominates just because we haven't seen that individual before, whether they're a rookie or a guy that's, bounced around a little bit. If you've never heard of this guy, it's kind of buyer beware. Be careful, especially if it's a lefty too. Where it's like, oh my gosh, how did this guy shut the Rays out for 7 innings strong or something like that? So that is something that it can be good and bad and have you a little bit nervous that, a guy like Ober's out, but the guy that they bring in might just be as good for a single start. I mean, anybody can go out and go bananas for 1 star or 2 stars as they probably just running off of adrenaline, frankly.
And that's why the Friday and Saturday game are very important, because Friday you'll be going against Chris Paddock. Zach Littell will be, and Chris Paddock is just normal 4 or 5 starter type of production. Then Saturday TBD. It's still not posted,
Right.
So, like you're talking about, could be a fantastic outing by somebody, or it could be one of the run of the mills that the Rays offense can do some numbers against. But it's Sunday where that's going to be must watch, because not only is Drew Rasmussen on the mound for the Rays, but old minor league farmhand Joe Ryan will
We
be.
never got to see the fruits of the labor in a
No,
Rays uniform. Hey,
we
it
did not.
had to be done
Had
with
to be done. Had to be done, people. He's 8-4 with a 2.75 ERA and 108 strikeouts. So
the Twins knew what they were doing when they were like, yeah, we're not trading you Nelson Cruz unless you include Joe Ryan, who I think was the minor league pitcher of the year,
yeah,
and had quite the repertoire and background to his name. And it's like, you're not getting Cruz, you're not getting this name unless you include Joe Ryan. And you see how swimmingly it has worked out for them. And yes, we'd love to have him, but again, I think the Rays are more or less just fine with it. Back to it. The Rays can find pitching no matter
yeah.
whether it's in the
You,
draft,
you don't you
by
don't
trade. They can find their spots to fill.
you don't get a guy who almost hit 500 home runs without giving something up. And by the
Yeah.
way, that season, I think that people forget about this. That season, Nelson Cruz was an all-star. He had 19 home runs by the all-star break. 19 people. So, who has 19 more than 19 home runs right now from the Rays? Caminero and
yeah.
Bilao.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of production that you were getting from Nelson Cruz. So yeah, it had to be done. So going back to the series, I do expect them to come out on top, but it has to be on Friday and Saturday. I feel like on Sunday, even though Drew is up, I feel more confident about what the Rays offense can do against a spot starter and Chris Paddock than what they can do against Joe Ryan.
Right. Yeah. Joe Ryan is a different animal for sure. And I guess another consideration too, which is on a little prep sheet, little inside baseball, is the Twins do much better when Royce Lewis is in the lineup. When he's in, they're like 18-12. When he's not in, they're like 22-32. So Royce Lewis might have some voodoo magic working for him. Well, maybe not so much voodoo magic because he seems to be getting hurt a lot. I guess that's just a theme with some Twins players between Byron Buxton and now Royce Lewis. And I'm sure there's been another cast of characters as well. But yeah, I think I feel good about the Rays' chances. I'll just leave it at that.
And obviously, like with those numbers that you're saying, 22-32 without Royce Lewis, well, let's hope that it matches up so that one of those days Royce Lewis is kept off the lineup, because he just came back on July 1st against Miami, but he had been on an IL stint, I think hamstring twice and a quad strain. So just Royce Lewis is a tremendous player, but he seems to get hurt basically every 2 months, and already on the IL 3 times this season. So
we've had experience with those types of players for sure.
Yes, we have.
Yeah. Now another footnote on this series, like we mentioned, the Twins are pretty much average-ish from top to bottom, lane to lane. But I would think if you look at the Twins starting pitching in their relief core, they do not walk a lot of guys. That is their calling card. I think starting pitchers are third in walks good. Like they don't walk a lot of guys. And the relief pitchers are fourth. They don't walk a lot of guys either. So that means that the Rays must be prepared to hit. Don't be prepared to take your walks. Be ready to swing the bat and try to make something happen.
Especially with the relievers.
It's very easy to out-hit the Twins because, again, they hit a couple home runs, but it's not like they're not top 3 or top 5, and they don't steal any back. So they should the offense should be in good enough shape to piece together a couple victories.
It's a very station-to-station type of offense for the Twins, which makes it predictable, which if you have a strong defense, you should be able to handle what the Twins can produce. And you were saying they're very good at keeping the walks down. Yes, they are, especially, both the startings and the relievers. But if you look at the relievers, you got to hit your way on against the relievers. Well, apparently that's not that difficult to do because they're 24th in hits per 9. So I like you. I feel like that should equate to a W in this series, but you never know. So let's watch some good baseball this weekend.
Swing early and often. First pitch, second pitch. Let's make it happen. All right, we have more to discuss, but first we have to tell the audience something very important that is next on the Locked On Rays podcast, your team every day.
Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? I know Kevin and I have. You want to see your Rays, and you can do that by using Game Time. You can save so much money on the tickets, and that extra money you save, you can splurge it on food, drinks, merch, whatever you want. You should know Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, and that makes it super easy to browse the app for an exciting upcoming MLB game. For example, the Athletics are coming. Why not see a game or two, because the Rays will be playing a lot of away games. So don't wait. Today, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Thank you for making the Locked On Rays podcast your first listen every day. We appreciate it. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I wanted to touch on the All-Star Game for a moment and the starters. They have been revealed, and just focusing on the American League, I'll just run through the names right here. Catcher, Cal Riley. That is not surprising at all. First base, Vladito Guerrero Jr., second base, Gleyber Torres, shortstop, one of my favorite players to watch in baseball, Jacob Wilson, very deserving, third base, Jose Ramirez, DH, Ryan O'Hearn, outfield, Aaron Judge, unsurprisingly, Riley Green, and Javi Baez, who is having a comeback, evidently. What's interesting is about the starters is like the Orioles get a starter, and the Athletics get a starter. So it is possible. Bad teams can get starters in the All-Star game, but I would say the big frustration among Rays contingent is the fact that there were no Rays players named starters. And namely, I think we can agree, Jonathan Aranda not getting the marker at first base just because, Vlad Guerrero has the branding on his side. He has the name recognition and he has the track record in the history. And even though Aranda's numbers, all in all are better and more emphasized than Vladdy. I know that Vladdy has, a couple more home runs, but you look at pretty much everything else and Jonathan Aranda's right there. It doesn't make enough of a difference. So, maybe I guess the only answer is Jonathan Aranda has to do this 5 years straight for him to get that starting berth. But it just kind of brought up a point or a question I had in my head of like, who will be that next Ray to be a starter in the All-Star game? And my first thought, my first impression, not Jonathan Aranda, but Junior Caminero. I would imagine that Caminero is starting to build up his brand and build up his prestige, where this year, obviously not going to happen, but maybe in future years, the only issue is it is very tough is if he's going to continue to play third base, because there's a little poke in the side in Jose Ramirez, who, pretty much is an automatic all-star year in, year out, and deservedly so. But, if Caminero comes out one year, and I don't think based on what we've seen so far, I don't think it's that out of the realm of possibility to, by the time that all-star voting wraps up, he could have 25, 26 home runs. Like he could go off on that kind of run in a first of the season and, get in that lane. But I just think, as well as the Rays have played lately and making headlines, it would have been nice to have a starter. We know they're going to have somebody, at least one person in the All-Star game. But it just kind of sucks, I guess.
It sucks. It really does, because Jonathan Aranda is probably the biggest snub in all of these All-Star starters. Like there's no rhyme or reason that anybody should be at first base other than Jonathan Aranda. So that's number one. Number two, with Bilao and with Junior Caminero and Yandy Diaz, I think they all have fair arguments to be made.
Yeah.
They are, but I can definitely see why they wouldn't be starters. But I think they are deserving of being in that conversation, and they weren't. And then you ask, why weren't they? Well, because we need to stop fan voting. We need to stop it. And this is gonna sound
It's rigged.
so bad, but like the masses don't know ball.
Yeah.
They don't know, and it's and
They know names, and that's it. They know
and
their
they
own.
know names, and maybe not even names, but in this case, it's kind of like I feel like you see it with Kansas City Royals in 2016, and with what the Dodgers are doing in this year, like the massive contingency of a fan base is they just vote for their team. They don't vote for the best. There's no
Right.
you can't hold fans responsible to like, hey, no, do who you think is best. No, they're gonna go for their team. They're gonna go for the team. Or if they don't pick someone from their team, then they'll go, like you said, with the name. They go with the Vladimir. They go with the Paul Goldschmidt. And it's not fair to guys like Jonathan Aranda who are there. So I am just out on fan voting. I feel like if you want to have the fans do something,
like the reserves, or like one guy.
Maybe one guy, like a utility decision, or like at the end of or like an extra, hey, one extra guy, like fans vote, something like this. But it messes up with prestige. A player might not get an All-Star nomination, and then at the end of the day, they're like, "Oh, Bobby Abreu, 2 All-Star nominations? That's not right."
That's a huge. That's like, probably the biggest black
serious?
mark on the whole process.
It's awful. So you're judging guys on their accolades once they're done playing, but the accolades were given by Joe Schmo, who created 10 email accounts and never pressed Jonathan Aranda on the damn scorecard. So like. That's one thing. Fan voting, it impacts a player's recognition later on in their career. It also, in real time, can affect sponsorships that they have. You don't think an All-Star nomination, an All-Star nod, is going to give the agents some kind of cachet of saying like, hey, you want Jonathan Aranda on your commercial? It's going to be this much money instead of this much money because he's an All-Star now. That affects their bottom line. And then also arbitration. All-Stars are going to get a little bit more of a bump than non-All-Stars. That's just normal, knowledge there. So I feel like fan voting, it's the year 2025. I am so out on this, Kevin.
And ultimately, I mean, assuming a player is good enough, Hall of Fame considerations like Bobby Abreu. I would say if Bobby Abreu had 8, 9, 7, 10 All-Star berths to his name, we wouldn't be having the conversation like we do every year of why isn't Bobby Abreu in the Hall of Fame yet? Exactly. So, it has long-term implications. So really, am I on the right track at assuming your position is flip everything around and basically give more power and influence to the players, the coaches, the managers, heck, maybe even, a general manager voting, something like that, where maybe you put in some caveat that you can't vote for a player on your own team.
And that's, I think, the caveat that's always been like when they do the pitchers, like, hey, if coaches they can be from your own team. Yeah. Perfect. Let's do that. And let's do that with, I feel like maybe voting if it's like player voting for the other starters, maybe you can do that at least.
Or for a home run derby. I'd be okay with a fan vote for a home run derby.
Exactly. From a pool of players that have said, yes, count me in for this. There's 20 of them. The most 10 that get votes, that's how you see it. That's what fan votes should be about. Thank you for fixing this very huge problem that we have in our hands.
I appreciate it. Every once in a while, a blind squirrel finds a nut. And I think that would ultimately... that would solve the issue, because I understand why MLB does the fan voting. It's for engagement and sponsorships and interest in making the fans a part of the game and having some influence in how decisions are made. But you can still more or less get all that with the sideshow of the home run derby. And not saying that you have to, they get to select all the home run derby participants, but half of them. I mean, whatever you have to do to maneuver the fan voting from the All-Star game to home run derby or something else, I think would be a fair play, because I've always, I'm sure there's some bias within front office folks and coaches and managers and players, but they're there on the field. They can see who that difference maker is, that little half inch that makes Jonathan Aranda better than Vlad Guerrero. Maybe not every year, but this year, man, we played and we saw Aranda. He's an all-star for sure. So,
and like,
I
think
think
this more than the normal guy. I think a guy in his 5th year is going to have a little bit more responsibility putting pen to paper than Joe Schmo, again, doing it in his work break. Like, I think this is way too serious. Just like it was too serious to have the winning league determine where the first game of the World Series would be played, like home field advantage. If that was too serious, how are the players that are playing and getting all-star nominations that is going to impact their career, how is that not serious enough so that you don't have fan voting on this? I'm sorry. I don't think fan voting should be for fun things. Home run derby, that's a great one. Get a jackpot of 20 players that say, yes, I'm willing to be voted into the home run derby, and then top 10 vote getters. Boom. That's how you do it.
We solved it, MLB. I'll call and text Rob Manfred after this. I mean, if there's somebody that could and would make the change, it's Manfred, with all the changes that he's made in baseball, for better or worse. And I think he has made, good impressions too over there. There's been some question marks and some roll your eye stuff, but I think overall, I would think and hope that he gets the bigger picture. So, we'll have to see what happens with all that in the future. It is interesting to monitor. It is crazy that, again, with AI and all that, I haven't done it, but somebody could hey, make me 1,000 fake email accounts, and then I feel like there's a way to really bot this thing.
100%.
And really rig the whole competition or voting, if you will. So on that note, let's go ahead and get into baseball trivia. Name that war. Ulises, what do you have in the arena of baseball trivia?
Well, I think people are going to be hating this trivia question because it's not a big trivia question. It's actually 4 trivia questions I got for you, Kev.
Oh, okay.
Remember the 2019 Bomba Squad for the Minnesota Twins?
Vaguely, yes.
Well, then this is going to be awful then, because these questions are for that 2019 record-setting team. The Minnesota Twins hit an MLB record number of bombas that year in 2019. How many home runs did that team hit?
I got to get it right on the mark.
I'll give you a margin of 15.
280.
Strike 1.
260.
Strike 2.
295.
That is within the 15. 307 home runs.
Holy cow.
Another one. The Twins were a dead last, number 15 in the American League in 2019. In which category? It's traditional stats.
And it's all hitting categories?
Yes. All offensive categories.
I would say walks, but I would imagine if they're hitting home runs, guys are going to walk them instead. So I'll just say if you got a lot of home run hitters, you probably don't have a lot of base stealers. I'll say stolen bases.
And you would be correct. Very good, Kev. Also, the Twins had a team record number of players hitting 30 or more bombas that year. And I want to know, Kevin, do you know how many players accomplished that feat?
5.
Your answer is 5, and you would be correct. Damn.
Thank you.
That was really good. Okay, last one. The Twins played the New York Yankees that year in the ALDS and lost the series in how many games?
I thought it was a sweep. No, I'm going to say 4. They lost in 4 games.
So close. They got swept. As always, the Minnesota Twins get swept by the New York Yankees. And that was today's baseball trivia.
Real quickly, do you have the names of the guys who hit 30 or more?
I do not.
Okay. All right. That would have been a fun question. I like that trivia question. I might have to do that next week, is giving you like 3 or 4 quick hitters.
Yeah. Well, we could change it up.
Okay. My Name That War question and prompt, where we take a player from the past and we have to guess as close as possible to what that individual's career Baseball Reference war is. This individual was a Minnesota Twinkie, and his name is 2 first names, actually. Joe Nathan. What is his BREF war?
Oh, that's good. That's good. Joe Nathan. He pitched for I want to say 12 to 15 years. He had like a 5-year, 6-year stretch where he was dominante.
A peak.
But how dominant can you be as a closer? Not a lot of war gathered there. So I think if you're a really good closer, you top at 3 maybe. If he did that for 5 years, that's 15, and then was kind of like a 1 war guy for the rest, that would be 25. But I think I might be giving him too much credit. Or maybe not enough. Let's do that. Let's just do simple math there. 15 times 3. Okay, no, that's too much. Okay, let's see, guys. Let's see. I think we're going to go with a 5-year peak at 3. That's 15. And then 10 more years at 1. That's 25. Let's go with 26.3.
Okay, that is your guess, 26.3. Joe Nathan. Honestly, if I didn't know better, I would have said, yeah, he spent his entire year with Minnesota Twins because that's where he was most known. But he actually played for
the Rangers,
the Giants, the Tigers, and the Cubs. A total of 16 years in the bigs. He had 377 saves, a career ERA plus of 151. His career ERA was 2.87. Not that this matters, a 64 win, 34 loss record. His whip was 1.12 for his entire career. Pretty remarkable and dominant as a 6-time All-Star and a Rolaids relief winner. Your guess of 26.3 is very, 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 and I mean very close. 26.7.
Let's bleeping go, people. That's how you play Name That War. That's how you do it. Oh, you just made my bleeping Friday, man.
I'm glad. Yeah, I would have thought you looked it up ahead of time, but no, you did the math. I mean, if a dominant reliever is about a 3 to 3.3 WAR play, unless you're dealing with like an Aroldis Chapman or Rivera going off, but like a great reliever for a particular year, just pencil in 3 WAR, and then see how long they played and how good they were for that period of time, and you pretty much get to that marker right there. Like Billy Wagner, I mean, probably 29 career WAR or something like that. I'm just throwing it out. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for making the Locked On Rays podcast your first listen every day. We appreciate it. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Local analysis brought to you on a national scale. You can find it on Locked On MLB on the YouTubes or wherever you listen to podcasts. On that note, we'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye.